Check, check. Sup, slappers? Slap like now, because I got an epico video with a crazy bassist. Well, crazy bassist. OMG. Nah, enough with Davey 504 references. But on the real, I got a crazy bassist that's going to be coming with me on a journey today as we go and explore his talents and see what he's all about. His name is Arjun. He'll be calling in a few moments. Sorry about that. Yesterday's show was canceled due to unseen circumstances, but it's all right. We're going to have her on at a later time, so anybody looking forward to that realtor show, it'll be coming just a little bit later on. Things happen, so we go around it. But today, it's all about the music, the funk, and the soul. I can't play bass. I got the... Ooh, yeah. Probably can't even hear that. But, I can't slap bass or anything, and I get bad, finger damage. So I can't play the bass like I want to. Whoop, I wish. I use some Rocksmith and whatnot. If you've been to my YouTube channel, you could see some of the videos I did regarding Rocksmith, how to set it up, fix latency issues and whatnot. But never really finished that challenge. I got pretty far, but then I realized, nope, I'm not that great. Before I break my bass. So we're going to have a great show. It's definitely going to be very entertaining. This guy's a great artist, very full of life. He's got a big personality, so definitely going to have a lot of fun tonight. So once again, if you missed our previous shows, you can find them all on our social medias at YouTube, Twitch, Facebook at Phame. So just look me up and you can find some of the videos if you missed. We had a lot of great talent from last week and this week. So you definitely want to revisit those videos if you haven't got a chance to check them out yet. There's so much talent that it's ridiculous. And I want you to be on my show. So if you got a talent that you want to showcase, America's got talent, the world's got talent, I want you on my show. I want you to showcase what you truly got. And let the world know who you are and what you're all about. And that's what we're here for here at the Phame Show, which is all about that film and music entertainment. So it's just, living a life. And like I said, we just have a lot of fun here. We just talk. We get to know somebody and get to know their talents and what they're all about. So definitely looking forward to all of that. I feel like I just ran a marathon. Jeez. Whew. Crazy. Storm weather's over here and everything. Today's been a crazy day. But I'm looking forward to everything's going to be going on tonight. It's just going to be very epic. And definitely a lot of wow moments. So if you're a fan of playing the bass or any instruments or just seeing some really good talent, you're definitely going to enjoy what I have coming up. Also, I wanted to say, make sure you follow me on all the full social media platforms: Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, Phame, Phame. Remember the name, Phame. Just try to keep it simple for you guys. Hope you guys are having a good time. Good week so far. We're almost getting to the weekend. The summer's around the corner. A lot of life. So hopefully everything opens back up and we get to enjoy our summer and have a good old time, chilling at the beaches, hanging out with friends, and just living a life that we're meant to live instead of just working all the time, which I feel like I do all the time. So this is like my peace of mind moment. But like I said, we got a lot, going to be coming up. I just got off the phone with him. He should be calling in any minute. So if you guys got any questions, just hit me up in the chat box. Let me know how you're feeling. Let me know what's good. Don't be shy to ask anything, or if you want to know something, I'm an open book. I'll let you know. Woo, there we go. So I'm excited because you have no idea. I haven't seen this guy. I actually worked with him back in Hawaii as well. So if you missed that episode I did with Clarence, where he's a videographer, he also worked on the cruise ship. So this one I met as well on the cruise ship, and he's just a really talented bassist and an all-around great guy. So definitely looking forward to having him and getting the show started. Like I said, next week, the lineup is not out yet. It's still in the works. Basically, I'm just tying in the names, locking the dates in. But looks like it's going right now. Hey. Check.
Hey, what up, DJ Phame?
Oh, there you are. Hey.
Can you see me?
I don't...
One second. What is it? No. I should be in there now.
Do you see me? Hold on.
I saw you and now oh, it's loading, I think.
Gotta love technology. Hold
Yeah, and you gotta love me for not knowing how to use it. Oh, there it. Okay, yeah, I got you.
on. You got me?
Yeah.
I got you for some reason. What's going on?
Let me check my settings because I set it up.
Like I see you. Oh, you see my screen, right? Like, what do you see?
Yeah, I see your screen.
So you see me?
I see you. I see the Phame show. I see the whole everything.
Just not you right here, right? And where it says your name.
I do not see me in the blank, but I know my camera's working because I can see what my screen is supposed to be sending out.
Gotcha. Yeah, I see you on one end. It's not on this end. Maybe it's my end.
Maybe I'll check this too because I'm bad at this. Good precursor to a hype show.
Yeah, that's how it always works. Always something, either
Yeah.
works great or there's something.
Camera built in. Okay, yeah. Checked. Automatically see. Yeah, I think I'm in there.
That could just be me, maybe. That's crazy.
Okay, so now I'm getting two of you.
Two of me.
Because I have one that I have I have two calls that I can drag now. I don't know how.
Okay, I see the right video. It's weird that it usually pops up right away. That's crazy.
Yeah. 1 second. Let me.
This is what happens at the Phame show. Sometimes we get a little glitches in the beginning, but we make it work.
We're gonna make it work. All right. Cause I've got mine enabled. Yeah.
Yeah, I see you on one screen. I just don't see you on my main screen, which I usually always see as soon as I'm seeing this. Got that.
I gotta apologize. My 9-year-old computer with too many viruses on it is probably holding us back. That's my guess.
It's
Always
good. It's good. Good. I'm gonna actually try calling you right back and see if it changes.
Let's go for it. You call me.
I want to call him.
Have more people talk to mine.
All right, let's see. Sorry about this, guys. Like I said, it's really rare that this stuff happens. Like sometimes, I don't know why I don't see him. Same thing again. Whoa, check.
Cool.
I don't know why. What's going on, man? We just can't see your pretty face. Kind of.
That's too bad. I actually I did shower this in the morning today. I've been showered for hours, waiting for this.
He was hyped. He was like really hyped.
I was I got out of bed, at a prime 10:30 a.m. Like, let's go. Quarantine hustle.
Quarantine hustle. He's ready.
Yeah, let's go. 1 second. I'm gonna mute my phone like a professional. Just got a message that a recipe I recommended to someone was really good. Feeling like a genius.
Hey, what you cooking up?
Oh man, there's a regional food in Rochester called a garbage plate. It's the most unhealthy thing on a servable utensil. It's like fries, mac salad, burgers, and meat sauce. And I sent him a recipe for the sauce.
That's crazy. Oh.
Yeah, it is. You find me yet?
I don't know what's going on right here. I feel like if I should see you, I should see you right here. It's really weird. But
should I share screen?
You could try that. See if that does anything.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna open my system preferences. Dude, I'm gonna turn every stone here.
Yeah, usually I don't have this issue.
Yeah. I've heard that about me a lot.
Man, you breaking my computer? No, I'm joking.
Dude, absolutely. It's not
something so simple.
Broken computer until I walk in. Okay. Huh, that's very unusual. I get okay now.
This is crazy.
It is. Well, in case they can't see me, I'm gonna keep seeing if I can fix from my end, but do you want to go in on a verbal standpoint, and maybe just Photoshop a picture of someone eating a lot of food in my, as like a mugshot or something, a stand-in.
A little standing shot of your mean
Yeah.
mug face or something.
Yeah, please. Like, I'm not that egotistical. We could just talk.
I feel you. I feel you. Just try to
Yeah.
do this right for once.
It's just good to hear your voice again, man. How you been?
Dude, it's been a minute.
It has been. It's crazy. Were you on a ship when all this happened?
No, man. I did that one contract and I was out. I was like, I'm out.
You, my friend, probably made an incredible decision for yourself.
Yeah, it was too long, man. I was like, I'm good.
How long was that first contract for you? Not to interview the interviewer, but
It was about like 4 months, I guess, 4 or 5 months.
not bad. My shortest is 5.
5.
So I know exactly how you feel. The 4 month part is like the hard part. But anyway, well, it's great to be on the Phame show, dude. I feel look at the Phame us.
Exactly. Oh yeah. We can post some mean mug pictures of you.
That's perfect. Preferably something where I'm kind of like tipsy at the Christmas party on the Pride of America would be perfect.
I think I just grabbed whatever I could find of you. I mean, I could have grabbed more.
Yeah, nah, dude, just anything. I'm just joking.
I was just like, wasn't expecting all this to happen like this. Usually it's.
Neither am I. That's why I was like, I'm always like hesitant because I don't know if my computer works. Quite frankly, yeah, that's perfect. That is.
Look at that mean mug.
That is me in college. And an early stash while still having the beard. So oh yeah, that's the one.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's when you. Oh. Man, long time. Those was like 25 pounds ago.
Yeah, they were the only ones that was like good quality pictures. I don't know what else looked like. It was
Yeah,
from.
I move around a lot, so I kind of look hazy. I'm a very pixelated person in that. But anyway, yo, it's great to talk to you. Thanks for having me on the show.
No doubt. Once again, I'm sorry that this is happening like this, but I guess we'll dive into some questions and I'll so try to figure things out. But we'll dive into the first question. So, how long have you been playing the bass for?
So I started like that kind of as a precursor question. I started playing a stringed instrument when I was like in 3rd grade. I started on the cello, and the reason they did that was because my uncle was a bass player, but I was too small to play bass. So my mom was thinking maybe if I got interested on that, this bass that we had lying around the house, maybe I'd get into that as a kid, like once I got big enough. And I think, she and my dad were pretty smart because right around the time I was 13, I came home with an upright bass from middle school and said, hey, look what I got. And they were kind of blown away. They were like, what do you mean you switched instruments? I'm like, yeah, I felt like it. I kind of didn't preempt them at all. And I've been playing ever since. And I started probably electric bass the next year. So I'm just at about 13 years of bass playing, which is half my life, which is pretty crazy to think about.
Wow. That is pretty crazy.
Yeah. So, shout outs to all of my music teachers, the music school I went to, the Eastman School of Music. Shout out to all my friends who've helped me and my parents. Always.
Nice. So how often do you practice the bass?
That's a good question, especially because the regiment changes where I am in life. Like on ships, when I'm working, especially this last ship contract was an Oceania contract, I'd say the average was about 4 hours a day. And, considering that I had limited time to get off ship and we were pretty busy and like it was a weird schedule, I might get an hour a day on busier days. But especially during, hey! I think I was on your screen for a second.
Did you saw it?
I saw it, yeah.
Oh, hey! Hey! There you are. I don't know what I just did, but okay. Yeah. I was trying to make like your own personal.
I'm really glad I get to introduce this new space. This is my studio. It's called my parents' basement studio. Call me for rates.
Call you for what?
Call me for rates.
For rates.
I was joking, like, yeah, call me in if you're trying to record in my parents' basement.
Gotcha.
But yeah, during quarantine, I've been pumping in like 3 hours a day, and it has been such a rewarding time. So for all my musicians out there struggling on the gigs, try and make your money work, try and get that Trump trek, try and get unemployment, but also follow me on this path to practice and getting a little bit better. I'm definitely trying to catch up for lost time on ships, and it has been marvelous.
Are you supposed to go back to the cruise ship, or are you done with that for a little bit?
So my current cruise ship contract, ended on April 25th. I got sent home 5 weeks early because of coronavirus. And I think at this point in time, after doing 4 contracts now, the better part of, let's say, 3 years at sea, maybe with about 3/4 of a year off in between those 4 contracts, I'm kind of in that point where I want to stay on land. My kind of plan as of now is that I'm moving to Rochester, New York, one of the music hubs of America, kind of tucked
Hey,
away.
New
That's
York.
where I went to school. Yeah, it's upstate, so it's
Still
half
good.
the price.
Yeah.
And I've got some projects up there that I'd love to talk about. There's a drummer named Andrew Tasheen, who I've been rehearsing some material with that is kind of secret and in the works. So keep your eyes out for that. And I'm always working with bands up north, whether it's a band that I've been working with called Kind of Kind, which we can show a clip from later. I've worked with them in the past, but I've had many projects up there that I can hope to continue on, and working with some excellent people up there. And for all the people who have reached out for me about trying to record during quarantine, I just picked up some recording equipment, and I'm
Hey.
it out with my 10-year-old computer, and we're gonna see how that goes. Hopefully by next week I'll be kind of set up, and also hopefully sounding good, because I don't know how to use a microphone.
That
Uh,
sounds
I,
good. Well,
yeah,
we definitely got to collaborate or something once you get all that up
I'd
and set
love
go.
to, man. I've been writing some tracks. One thing that's been great for quarantine, especially as a musician who plays an instrument that's chordal, it's been really great from composing. It's been a wonderful time, and the amount of collaboration I have been able to do during coronavirus, where it's someone coming over, we do a social distance recording session. I've been working a little bit with a friend of mine named Garrett Mater,
Hmm.
who some of you may know as a friend of mine that went to school at the Eastman, but also someone who's done a ship contract. I helped him get a contract on the Dawn, the
Nice.
Norwegian Dawn. He did one, I think, 3.5 or 4 month contract, and yeah, that was a lot.
That's what's
Yeah.
up. So, what inspired you to learn the bass basically over any other instrument? So, I know you kind of went over a little bit, but like, what really
Yeah.
inspired you to really chose that
So
one?
a huge inspiration for it was my uncle. My
Mm.
uncle was the first kind of recorded musician in either side of my family. He was my uncle's brother, so we grew up in Harrisburg. And the story for him was he, the first instrument he got like he broke his jaw in football,
Oh, jeez.
and the insurance money came back, and he told his mom, well, my jaw's going to heal up naturally, so I'll use it to buy a bass. And so he had a broken jaw for about, I think, 7 or 8 weeks. Just he had a broken jaw,
Yeah.
and that's how he could buy an instrument.
Wow.
And so I've had a lot of support come from all over my family when I started playing bass. One of the reasons I wanted to do it, because I remember hearing about how cool my uncle was, about the story, and I loved music ever since I was a kid. My parents raised me on listening to anything from classical, folk rock, rock and roll, jazz a little bit. It was a really nice environment for the arts, and my mother actually plays piano pretty competently, so it was really nice to have that influence.
So,
Some direct influences as a bass player, like as a kid, I was listening to a lot of Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin, so that was it. I was listening to a lot of guitar players like Jimmy Page, David Gilmour, Jimi Hendrix, stuff like that. But as I got older and kind of came into my role as a bass player, players like Jaco Pastorius, who was a huge jazz guy, really big into Thundercat. A huge bass player that I'm into right now is Yannick Gwizdala,
mhm.
really cool dude that lives out in LA. There's a lot of great musicians. Nick Campbell is a modern guy who plays in Pomplamoose, dope band, and they sound incredible, and just really inspiring time to be a bass player. There's a lot going on, and I've been able to meet some really, like, even some of my heroes through my education and through my search as a musician.
Nice, nice.
So
So,
yeah.
what would you say is your favorite bass you ever owned?
Oh man. So being the son of a bass player, or sorry, the nephew of a bass player,
Yeah.
I actually, my family started coming forth and bringing in instruments to me that weren't, that they had inherited through my uncle's will when he passed.
Mhm.
And so I was able to grow up actually playing the instruments that he owned way back in the 70s and 80s. So I think actually I can pull it out. Give me a minute.
Sure, look at that. We're gonna look at some
My
exclusive bases right now.
Yeah, my current go-tos as of
Ooh,
recently.
look at that thing.
If I'm playing, I actually played this on my first contract on the Pride, and the
Okay.
reason I did take it is because it weighs like 12 pounds or
It looks
something,
very heavy.
and I'm like 5'7", so just like
And it's a four string, right?
destroyed. But this is called the Gibson Grabber. I believe it's
Nice.
from 1978. You'll see that it's like a full maple body, full maple neck.
Clean.
Has a weird triangle headstock, so it's great for poking. And the pickup moves. I don't know if you can see it because it's black on black, but
Oh,
sorry, there's a little lag. Okay, there it goes. Yeah,
that's crazy. Yeah.
that bass was really cool. One of my favorite bass players. One of my favorite bass players as a high school student was Mike Dirnt of Green Day, and he used one of those on the album Dookie.
Mhm.
So shout outs to that. That was a huge part of it. And then a new bass I just picked up. This is kind of cool. I don't really buy instruments because I had a lot of stuff over, but I actually just picked up this American-made Performer Mustang.
Nice.
Very unusual bass. I like it a lot.
Oh, yeah.
It sounds really cool, and it's actually really small, so I can actually play it. Small guy with small hands. Perfect.
That's what you need, like a little short scale, right?
Yeah, it's a short scale. That's a 30-inch neck as opposed to the other bass, which was 35, which, yeah, it feels like Babe Ruth's baseball bat or something, dude. Just knock them out of the park. It's too so heavy.
The thing's awesome looking. So
yeah, and then of course I have a couple uprights upstairs, which I play for appropriate gigs like that.
So how many basses do you have total then?
Oh man, there's a couple more around here. Probably like, let me think.
More than 10?
3, 2, I think like 5.
About 5 basses?
5. I think I have 5 bass guitars, but 3 of them were inherited. So I, luckily came into possession of those and had to earn my right on that. And then I have 2 bass guitars I bought that are much easier on travel, and especially these vintage basses. I don't want to take them on a ship where they can get damaged.
Definitely not.
Especially when you're playing out on the pool deck and that salty wind comes in, your frets are rusting up, and you feel like an idiot.
Yeah, no.
Just like, well, there goes my instrument.
That's funny. So
just so you can play Margaritaville.
Yeah, that's about right.
For the 5th time that week.
Sick of that song after that contract.
It's actually, you know what I gotta say, on behalf of all ship musicians, am I allowed to swear on this?
Sure.
I fucking love Jimmy Buffett, dude. Like, I don't know what it is, but I think ships have molded me into a guy where if someone says play Margaritaville, I'm the first guy to go in the band. Let's fucking do it. You know we're getting a tip for it. Like, I have never not gotten a tip when someone says play Jimmy Buffett. So thank you, Jimmy Buffett, for writing songs that make drunk people want to give us money on top of our pay for it.
They used to tip me for the same thing. Can you play Jimmy Buffett? Then they tip me $5 just to play it. So I'm like, all right, whatever.
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah, dude, it's all about the money, and that's what Jimmy Buffett's about. I love that.
That's great. So another funny question you probably got asked before, but have you ever heard of Davey 504? And if so, would you consider?
Oh yeah, dude.
How would you consider your skills to his? Like.
Okay, so where I consider myself to his, I'm not much of a slap player, but when I'm picking up some slack technique, I actually looked at a Davey 504 video on he's got this video where it's like, learn this hard slap technique and I'm going to rank you based on how you do. I actually did learn that at one point in between contracts because it came out while I was on vacation after my 3rd contract on the Pride. And I was like, I'm not really super into all of his stuff because it's like, it's a comedy thing.
Yeah.
It's a music comedy thing, so the jerk's pretty nerdy. But the guy's a really great player, and it's really cool to have someone who's so obsessed with bass culture and doing silly things and just having fun with it. I'm glad he's making money. I'm glad he's making music, and I'm glad he's inspiring kids. And I did learn some slap stuff from him, so really happy for those videos. But if I'm watching YouTube videos of like bass players, check out Mono Neon. His shit is wild. That guy is like funny as hell. He's wearing tons of stuff. He has a really he's the kind of guy who transcribes funny videos and plays them on bass, and it's super musically talented, but it's also hilarious. So that's my YouTube guilty pleasure, funny, talented bass guy.
There you
Top
go.
couple.
Exactly. That's why
Yeah.
you guys see your face on there more. You should start doing some stuff like that.
That is actually a project in the works, kind of keeping it hush hush. But a
Okay.
friend of mine named Eugene Bizdikian, he and I are getting into some trouble. The coronavirus has kind of taken it down a notch, but hopefully, by the end of the summer, fall, we're looking to do something that'll be on a channel more or less, keeping some consistent content coming out there. Hence, I actually just ordered some recording equipment. This quarantine, I think, for a lot of us musicians has been an eye opener on how do I make money when I'm not driving to a gig and, doing that thing, or playing on a ship, or teaching lessons face to face. And one bass player that I've seen that's been doing it really well, there's a bass player named Danny Seaman. He actually went to my school a few years before I did. So he graduated the year before I started. But now he's got like YouTube channels, like a really good YouTube channel. His Facebook Live stuff has been incredible. He has a wonderful bass masterclass coming up on June 1st through June 3rd. So check out his page for that. I will be tuned in, learning some stuff about jazz that I don't know. And I'm ready to be inspired.
That's what's up.
Very cool for that.
So speaking of songs, we're actually gonna jump into that song that you
Oh,
you
please.
sent me.
So this is a cool song. It was actually composed in one day with me and a friend of mine named Dan Sweeney of Kind of Kind. He actually sings lead and wrote the lyrics, but I actually came in with the initial idea, and we kind of worked out the form together to make this really cool song, and it's very bass dependent. Also, shout outs to Eugene Bizdikian for lending me the bass on that track, because I was on the road and like two of my instruments were in the shop, and I was like living in two cities or something, so I had to borrow his bass. And shout out to Josh Pettinger and the entire Wicked Squid Studios family for recording this album. Check them out. They are Rochester's like coolest flour mill turned into a recording studio. And coming out of coronavirus, they are going to have probably one of the nicest looking studios in Rochester. So definitely check those guys out.
All right, sounds good. So we're gonna dive into this song really quick, and then we'll get back with more questions. Sounds good?
Jeez, thank you.
All righty, here it is.
Functionality.
right.
Hey, hey!
Pretty
What a
dope.
banger!
Yeah, I was feeling that little bass solo you had going on there.
Yeah, that was a really fun song to write actually, because it's well, this genre is kind of like this mixture of mathcore with like emo, pop punk, and indie kind of stuff. And I originally wrote it actually the middle bass solo thing on guitar, and but the whole thing is kind of really inspired by one of my favorite bass players, Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Yes.
I remember hearing the album By the Way for the first time and being like, "Oh, cool, let's play bass. Like, let's go hard. This is gonna be so cool if I get good at this." And yeah, it has helped. That was pretty much a tribute to that stylistic way that I was playing was very similar to what I wanted to play get out of Flea's playing.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely was very clean. Sounded good.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, definitely a reflection on the recording. Got to give some shout outs as well to our talented drummer in that band, Nigel Blair. That guy plays so well. It's ridiculous. And it's a lot of fun playing in that group. Hoping to work with them in the future, but check them out because my replacement in that band, when I start doing ships, his name's Eat Fate. They sound incredible. Chris Shue plays in them too. So check those guys out. They got a third record coming out, and hopefully I'll be seeing them in the future. They're good old friends.
Sounds good. Sounds good. So, how many bands have you been since you started playing the bands? Like, how many bands have you
Oh,
been in?
probably close to 20.
20 bands?
Probably. Like I've done a lot of work. I've subbed in for a lot of groups. I've started a couple. One of my most notable bands. Definitely check out a band called Fish God. It was a band I started in college with my, two closest friends at the time, Gordon Engelgau and Andrew Lynx. And it was a pop punk band that we started kind of as a joke. And we would do ridiculous shows. Like we did the Drake and Josh theme song as a cover, and we were doing like weird metal breakdowns and like breaking guitars against the wall. There's actually still a small hole in the side of the club, the Bug Jar in Rochester, from when Andrew broke a $20 guitar against the wall, which he also proceeded to severely injure his hand.
Oh,
And
jeez.
that was a weird show. We've got some records on Bandcamp. Check out Fish God. It's the weirdest band that you've never heard of. And it was really funny. We got to play a lot of shows drunk. It was a great way to get out the negativity. Really work off any bad vibes.
So, what
Uh,
genre of music do you enjoy playing the most then?
as of recently, a lot of bands I've been gravitating towards have been definitely more in the indie circle because you can see that a lot of bass players actually go in between playing very root oriented and playing very melodically and writing parts that are like huge hooks to the song. A band I've been really taking note of is Hop Along. Their bass player is really driving and always plays right to the song, and I love the way that those are composed. I've been really into another band called Sean, which is definitely more on like the mathcore side of things, but as an instrumentalist, it was just really cool. And yeah, those are kind of the things I go for. A lot of indie and mathcore stuff, but really like if I'm on a ship when I don't get to play, fun things written after 1990, a lot of it comes from me playing a lot of the funk and Motown stuff because you just really get to, as a bass player, like nothing's cooler than a bass player playing funk. Like,
Exactly.
yeah, it's bread and butter, man. It's just like you're getting paid to do the most fun stuff in the world. So, wedding band and party band gigs like that, where you're playing like Earth, Wind, and Fire, you're playing anything by the Temptations, you're playing just a lot of funk and rock and stuff like that. It's just so much fun.
Definitely.
So,
Yeah,
yeah,
because a lot of like modern music is just very simple bass lines,
it can be, but
or
one thing
programmed.
that's fun about that is a modern bass player is that you have to figure out how to sound like a bass synthesizer to some extent,
Yeah.
or like getting the dub sound and stuff like that. So even playing tunes like if I was playing like a modern pop gig, like a top 40 wedding band, the
Mm.
tunes I'd want to play would be like Treasure by Bruno Mars, something, that's a really fun bass tune, like pretty much that. But then if you're doing things like Shake It Off, or you're doing things like Happy, where the bass is kind of like a synthesizer, and it's really subby and fun,
Mm.
using some pedals and knowing how to use your gear and amps, you can actually do that so well live and have so much fun with it. and it's kind of simple to play in some ways. But if you really use the energy positively and you just do something really cool with your equipment, people really receive it well, and
Yeah,
nothing like just pumping way too much at the end.
I never thought about it that way. Yeah, that's definitely something to
Yeah,
think about.
so especially like I remember one gig actually back on the Pride. I'm sure we all remember Tim Grabowskis,
Mm.
one of the most energetic guys you'll ever meet, nicest people. He was actually the head sound tech in Mardi Gras, and we were doing the White Hot parties. So this was
Yeah.
you were here for this cast. It was during that
Yeah.
contract, and I remember I had this pedal that's a huge sub synthesizer thing. Like you hit it, and it just sounds like a sub synth, and it's really fun. And I was using it on the tune. I believe Danielle Besler was singing it. We were playing "Shake It Off," and it's just like just playing like one note a measure. It's nothing crazy.
Yeah.
But Tim just walked up and he's like, "The bass sounds fat in the hall. I'm thinking the subs are on." And it's like that's the great thing about playing bass is if you're doing it right, everyone gets excited when you're just playing one note. So definitely something to think about on a maturity aspect of musicality, and something that's just always super well received.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So, if you could play bass for any band or any artist in the whole world, who would you choose?
Oh man, so there's so many. Oh, that's a hurt. That hurts, man.
Let's just say they came out too. Like you had the choice, so you had to play. Like I got a huge
Okay.
concert, Madison Square Garden, blah,
Oh,
whatever.
if it's that big, like Madison Square Garden, Stevie Wonder.
Stevie Wonder.
If Michael Jackson was still alive, probably Michael Jackson, and if Prince was still alive, he would also be on that list. But the reason I say those three artists is all of their songs have such great bass parts across the line. The entire way that those albums that those artists created were produced so that everyone's funking out, everyone's partying, everyone's playing cool stuff. And you're just like, if you were paid to play that at Madison Square Garden, you would be getting paid to be playing some of the most well-received, best produced dance pop music of all time. And that's just what it's all about. The reason why I say Stevie Wonder as a living artist is just he has that too, but there's also such a huge influence of swing, bop, like weird funk, like really cool, like fusion. He's all over the place, and he does smooth stuff. There's even Latin stuff, and he's not afraid to do funny like jazz tag endings that seem out of place. So Stevie Wonder, that would be my answer. If I could play with anyone at Madison Square Garden, it would be Stevie Wonder. And it would also be good because I'd have to practice a lot to replace his bass player.
So speaking of venues, what is your favorite venue that you got to perform at?
Man, so I've got a couple that I've had connections with. One has always been like, there's a DIY venue in Rochester called the Bug Jar, and it's run by probably one of the kindest guys in the city, one of the most likable guys in the city, named Tim Avery. He's just a lovely guy. He's always looking to try and book someone for the right gig. He's really trying to work with audiences, work with bands, work with the club. He's one of the few true blue promoters, man. He's just always trying to do what's best for everybody, and he really comes through for you a lot of the time. He never forgets a favor, and like he's the kind of person where you never forget to do him one too. It just never. It's one of those things. But other venues I've really fallen in love with. I really actually liked playing at the Kennedy Center. My junior year, I was doing an orchestra thing there through NSO, not SSO. It was like the Kennedy Center Orchestra thing that summer.
Nice.
Some weird acronym I can't remember. But I've always liked playing at the Kennedy Center because, I grew up outside of Washington, D.C., and I've had some experiences there, whether being in childhood choirs or when I finally started getting good at upright bass, playing some symphonic works. And I remember one time in high school, I was playing at the Kennedy Center over the summer. I was playing my favorite symphony, which is Brahms 4, this last symphony. And my dad couldn't be there in person, but he was live streaming it at like 5 a.m. from Japan.
Wow. From Japan.
And like that was a huge deal for me. So I'm like, I'm being watched by my dad in Japan playing at the Kennedy Center. And I think one of the reasons I love this hall so much is because when my dad finally came home, I was like, "Hey, Dad, what'd you think about the concert?" He goes, "Arjun, I saw you headbanging playing upright bass at the Kennedy Center."
That's you, yeah.
And I guess I must have been comfortable. So I gotta say, I love playing at Kennedy Center when I was a kid, and luckily, hopefully I get good enough to play there as an adult and get paid. But dreams happen. So Bug Jar and Kennedy Center,
There you
tight
go.
list.
So if you could perform
Only I
any,
want to venue.
so if you could perform anywhere in the world, where would you choose? Like any state, any country? Like where would
Oh
you?
man, a country that I've really fallen in love with, especially with this last contract. I've been to Spain 2 points in my life now. Once when I was 26, and 10 years later, now as a 26-year-old, I would love to play in Spain. It's just such a beautiful place. It evokes such beauty and my appreciation for life, and I would love to perform there. If there's anywhere else, I mean, like, I don't think I'd be a real musician who's taken a hand at jazz and bebop and stuff like that, or modern stuff. I would love to play at Tavern 55, which is the iconic, like, really like cutting floor for all the top session jazz musicians in New York. That's where David Bowie found the Donny McCassin quartet for
Yeah.
his last record. It's like stories like that happen all the time where it's the bands playing there are cutting. They're
Yeah.
just absolutely amazing. That would be things. All my heroes right now are playing there, like Evan Marion, Tim LaFay. You see drummers like Antonio Sanchez. You see just all over the place, and it's incredible at that club. So I would love to both go there as a listener and a player one time in my life. I look forward to it.
You gotta make it happen. Gotta make it happen.
Oh yeah, that's the next thing. As soon as this is all open, man, I'm hitting Tavern 55 the first night gigging is open in New York.
So what struggles do you face when you're learning the bass? Like what was any
Man,
struggles?
especially being like a pretty small dude in terms of hand size. I was actually, things like that. There was a lot of physical limitations about playing the instrument. It was pretty hard at first to actually space hands out, especially on upright bass to get the proper positioning. Intonation became a huge issue. And I think, but as I got better, the things that became harder were playing with a bow. I just was having a hard time with, I had a really heavy bow and I just never really got properly situated and felt comfortable, which is one of the reasons why I gravitated to electric bass. As an electric bass player, my technical ability from upright kind of carried over and was made this transition as I took that seriously pretty well. And the things that I focus on more now are less technique oriented for what is really holding me back, and more about note choice and learning the proper history of like what's the word I'm looking for? History of vocabulary for jazz, knowing when it's proper to play certain things in, classic big band era as you go later into like combo jazz, bebop,
Yes.
cool jazz when you see the West Coast stuff, proper blues. It's knowing exactly how to hit certain changes, what you can get away with, and especially in a soloing way, but mainly as a walking bass player, learning how to figure all that stuff out. So
That's my issue
definitely,
with my fingers. They always swell up, and it's like bad
oh
for
yeah,
weeks. Like, and I can't do it for one finger. I don't know why. Every time I
oh
just
yeah.
only
It's
one
like
finger, it blows up, and I'm like, I
oh
give
yeah,
up.
the callus explodes.
Yeah.
You want a trick? Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. He used to play so hard that his thumb skin, like from slapping,
Mm-hmm.
his thumb skin would come off, and he would find it
Oof.
in like in broken shards, the callus popping off, and he would actually monkey glue it back on.
Ow.
So a lot of people do that, and like there's the case that actually kind of hurts you because that's your body's way of saying stop when it explodes, and to go past that can be dangerous. And I've
Yes.
seen bass players, especially on upright, who've gone past the point of it's not helping, it's hurting now.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely, if your calluses are the only thing that are hurting, kind of, and it's not your bones or your whole fingers, try just bandaging them up, cleaning them up a lot, and then just kind of powering through it. Maybe not too much, but that's always been something I recommend. And I grew up gardening a lot and doing yard work, so my fingers are actually really like I never had finger callus problems playing guitar or bass.
What do you think about like wearing like a glove or something? Like some bass players wear
Never.
gloves.
Nah,
Oh.
I do see that a lot, especially on the Scott from Scott's bass lessons. He
Yes.
always wears the bass on the left hand.
Yeah.
Another great bass educator. And I think that's really cool, especially on a timbre, like the way it affects the timbre of the instrument. I think it's a really cool idea. But I've always loved the feeling of playing the string underneath my fingers And if I have to be honest, my favorite string is a flat wound string.
Mm.
So it's actually completely flat on the outside instead of being round wound, where it has the bumps from being on your fingertips. So if you are having problems with just calluses popping,
I should go
I
for like
always
a
recommend
flat.
the bass players getting flat wounds.
Cause I
And it
think
gives you,
around rounds, yeah.
yeah, and flat wounds are very versatile. The bass player right now, Tim LaFay, who's probably the busiest working bass player in America. He was in Tedeschi's Trucks band. He's played with David Bowie's last record. He is a huge LA guy recording film soundtracks. I think he was all over Ocean's 13, like 12 and 11. Like he was the bass player in the studio for that. He uses predominantly flat wounds, and he's again like he's making his money just doing that, and those strings don't need to be changed as much. So I always recommend it. I know it seems like really cool for young guys. Yeah, I want to slap. I want that really aggressive tone. But one of the reasons I bought two basses, both short scale, one has round wounds and one has flat wounds. So you can just have that thing. So I always recommend flats to people who are having issues with pain.
So when it comes to choosing a bass, like how would you determine which one to choose from like a P bass to a J bass?
Oh man, that's actually a great question. Actually, one of the reasons the newest bass I've purchased,
Mm-hmm.
it's actually in between a P and a J bass, has a J bass in the back, and it has a small P bass pickup, the Mustang pickup in the
Mm.
front, so you can kind of get best of both worlds.
So is that a PJ bass or is that what it's called? A
It's actually
PJ?
considered an MJ bass because the Mustang pickup is slightly smaller than the P bass, but it's, same thing.
Gotcha.
But when I'm picking out basses, I look for how the neck feels. I think about practically what I could use this bass for based on the sound, knowing what the pickups could do, knowing how it would fit in. I have to think about like what tunings I could get away with, like certain basses, like these short scale basses, the tension would not work with metal if I was drop tuning.
Yeah.
That's what the Gibson's for, that 35-inch neck. I used to play that in a band where we played in drop D flat, and it was like really fun, like
Yeah.
just playing with some distortion through a cranked amp. That's how it should be. It was a really cool hard rock thing, and I love stuff like that. But I usually think about just how it will fit in with who I am, and you kind of just have to love that instrument. One of the reasons I bought the bass I had, I was in San Francisco on this contract, and I went to the Guitar Center with a friend of mine, Tomas, who was the guitar player with me on the Serena Show band, an excellent guy. He was a really cool roommate. If you're ever in Argentina, and you need a guitar player, I recommend him.
Yeah.
Because he's the only one I know. And he was buying a Telecaster that day. He bought a custom shop Telecaster. It was gorgeous. And I was hanging out with him. Like, I got the Uber because I'm the American guy. So I was like, oh, yeah, I can call the Uber. You can buy me a drink later or something. I don't want you to have to go through that because his phone plan's based in Argentina. And so I remember picking up this exact same finished Fender Mustang bass. And I fell in love with it, and I didn't buy it. And then when I decided, oh, I really want this, I got the exact same finish, the exact same everything. I fell in love with that. So that's something I look for. It's like when you make a connection with an instrument, try and, you just try and keep it as long as possible.
So I'm bad with like colors. Like I choose my instruments for colors. It's really bad. It shouldn't be that way. But I was like, I love this color. I have to have it.
Yeah, I'm a really plain guy, actually. Almost all of my instruments are natural finishes. And the newest bass I bought was white. So, I mean, I really don't know if I'm very creative, but I'm super into silly guitar straps. So I got like a couple floral straps right now. That's where my flair comes out. I think, because you can always change a guitar strap. You cannot easily change a finish. Okay, let's see it.
I got my basic black, my basic, and then
okay. That goes well with the blazer, though, man.
I got it because of the color. That was the bad thing. I was like, yeah, I like the blue and the black, and it's Ibanez was like a beginner.
That's a good start, and that's a good bass, man.
Yeah, it's not bad. I mean, it kind of it's a little ringy, a little tingy. I have some other bass players that are like, yeah, you can definitely tell it's like a beginner bass, but it's all right. That's probably why my fingers hurt so bad. But I put new good strings on it. I got some really good strings on it now, but.
Ooh, what you put on there?
Denarios, New York.
Diodarios, okay,
Diodarios, yeah.
Diodarios. No, I actually, fun story, man. I was working at the International Society of Bassists Conference, which was held at my school one year, and Diodario came because they just made a new upright bass string. They just were releasing it that year. And I walked up to the guy. I was like, hey, I'd love to try a set out. And he goes, cool, here's a free set. Just write us a review online.
There you go.
So I actually ended up getting some really great D'Addario strings, and I actually have a set of D'Addario flat wounds as my backup because those things are just tanks. They can take it, they sound great, and they play really easily. So
Yeah,
if I am buying strings though, my go-tos are Tomastic Ingfelds for flats. They're like really expensive. They're like $80 a set, but they last like 5 years.
wow.
So it works out. Like economically, it's a great string.
Yeah, 80
Listen,
bucks. Wow.
value, you know, I haven't changed them in like 2 or 3 years. So not complaining about the price after that.
So yeah.
And then if I'm using round wounds, I actually have a backup set right now. I have my GHS bass boomers. These are my favorite round wounds. It was the first string I ever played, and it was something I just fell in love with. They look cool, they feel great, and I like how they're short scale GHS bass strings.
Yes.
Have gold winding at the top. That was really cool.
I used to sell those things like hotcakes. Shout out to Brandon, I guess. He just checked in on a check-in. Shout out to Brandon. He says one of your boys right there, just coming to support you.
Oh, yeah, what up, dude? Good to hear from you. Yeah. Stay safe out there. Yeah.
So, what was I going to say? So do you play any other instruments besides the bass, or bass is just your main instrument?
Yeah, actually, I played a lot of guitar in high school. Primarily upright and electric, but I was doing a lot of guitar. I actually used to teach ukulele of all things.
Yes.
I had a free period in high school, so I was teaching ukulele because I didn't have friends. And
story of my life. I'm your friend.
I was super weird.
Now you're Mr. Popular. Everybody knows you now.
Oh, everyone knew me. That's a good point. But those are like the main things. I was playing a little bit of mandolin, but I was never really good. It was always like I could play some cover songs on it. It wasn't something I was super decent on. But one thing I have had to start working on was getting a little bit better at piano, and it's something I don't like doing because I actually don't physically like playing piano. It feels weird.
It does.
It's like it feels like eating a peanut butter and jelly, but the ratio's off. It's just not my vibe.
Yeah, it's like when I like make beats, I just use like my one hand on just the keys I want. I can't do two hands. I'm like, nah, it's too much.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, I'll play a synthesizer track, but if you're asking me to sight read like a jazz tune, like simple comp chords, my first reaction is
nah.
Oh, no. So definitely have to work on that. Actually, one of the things that I've been doing to kind of understand piano more, and something that I recommend to bass players a lot, I actually am working on there's this pianist named Esbjorn Svensson, one of my favorite jazz pianists, and he's written a lot of really cool, like really great albums. One of my favorite ones is called Tuesday Wonderland, and I'm actually reading a transcription of his piano parts and figuring out how to play them on bass as best as possible, like the chords and everything. So that's actually what I've been working on all week, is just technique of how to play full piano scores reduced down on bass guitar with only 4-string chords. So even though as a bass player I'm primarily playing just stringed instruments, figuring out how to get into the mind of a pianist on bass, or figuring out how to play like a lead sax line on bass and have it convincing, and knowing how to take the inspiration and do the proper thing with it.
So do you prefer playing the upright bass more or the electric bass?
As a personal preference, it's gotten to the point where electric is going to be the thing where I sound best, because I took 2 years off of playing upright because they didn't have one on the Pride. But my last contract, they actually had an upright bass on the ship, and it wasn't great, but it was fun. It was a hunk of wood, and it played the right notes. It was pretty loud, and I really liked playing that bass because people like seeing upright bass when you're playing jazz. People don't. A lot of listeners aren't really particular about what's idiomatic, what sounds most appropriate usually, especially when it comes to bass. Yeah. But when you see a jazz band, and we used to do like a lot of like second line New Orleans like dedicated nights, I'd always pull out the upright because it just makes so much sense and it's so fitting. Mm-hmm. So, on a personal note, I love playing electric, and it's definitely where my voice kind of shines more. But as a musician, I have to say one of my go-tos is just finding the right musical instrument for the right situation. If you're playing certain things, you got to bring the right toy out. And that's like the fun part about being a musician, is like knowing a lot and knowing what one thing to bring to that one moment.
So what's your take on picks then? Like,
nope. Oh, dude, I got 2 picks right here, dude.
Oh, no, you play with picks? That's a no-no, right?
I'm using a Dunlop USA 208. I actually found one of these on the stairwell outside the Kodak Theater in Rochester, New York. And I was playing like a lot of really thin picks, and I never liked the sound. I didn't like pick playing for a long time because I didn't find the right pick for me. This one was the right thickness. And so I could see that the sticker was kind of like rubbed off, but I could kind of read it. And then I went to the guitar shop down the street called Bernunzio's, and I found out they sold these for 25 cents a pop. And so I just threw down like a $5 bill and just picked up 25 picks or something. No, I picked up 20 picks. Sorry, there's math. There's the math.
Yeah,
Picked up 20 picks, and I was like, okay, I better not lose these.
kind of looks like the ones I use. It's like the thub ones I use, like the really thick ones, like the thub.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, you got to use thick picks. I hate when I'm seeing like, this breaks my heart. Like I'll see like a starting up band, and the bass player actually sometimes has really good left hand technique, and they're playing in a punk band, some really cool songs, but the bass player is playing with a really flimsy pick, and he hasn't really thought about his voice as an instrument, even if he's just playing roots. Just like you're missing out on a lot of the thickness, and you might even be better off just like kind of banging your hands against the strings because you get more fundamental. So it's always heartbreaking, and in some instances, I've actually walked up to a guy and be like, "Try this pick." Because I have like 20 more in the bag. I've been that guy, especially if he's like a young guy, and I'm like, "Yo, you sound great. Try one of my picks." And then just be like, hear him the next week, and he's just like thundering out, and you're like, "Fuck yeah,
So
that's my guy."
what is your favorite song to play?
Oh man, I absolutely know if I'm at a like, especially if I'm on a ship playing a wedding gig or something where it's like top 40 Motown funk everything. I would say Ain't No Mountain High Enough. The bass player's name is James Jamerson. He was like the guy who recorded like all of the Motown stuff. Like he was on Temptations, Four Tops. He was Marvin Gaye's bass player. A lot of Jackson 5 stuff. And like one of his most iconic bass lines is just that great line on Ain't No Mountain High Enough. It has no reason being as dirty as it is. It's like really simple, but it's just perfectly placed. It's the economy of notes, and the song, you could not do the song without that specific bass line. It would just be so empty without it.
So you have a lot of fun playing it then.
Oh yeah, dude. If someone ever calls Ain't No Mountain High Enough, either version. I love the Marvin Gaye version and the Tammy Terrell, but on the Pride, we would actually play with Divas 3, wonderful guest entertainers. Gotta love them. Love you, Kirby. You've always been my best friend. We would play it's the Donna Summers version, I think. Donna Summers or it was Donna Summers from the Supreme. No. For Diana Ross.
Diana Ross. It was Diana Ross, yeah.
Diana Ross version, sorry.
Yeah, I think
that Diana Ross
Summers.
Version.
I was like, what? I don't remember doing that.
It's not Donna Summers. No, it's Diana Ross.
Yeah.
I always forget who did that one. But it's so much fun to play that tune. And I also have a lot of fun playing Bruno Mars tunes at parties because everyone knows that song.
Exactly.
It's sometimes fun to play songs that everybody knows. Like, we would play country gigs on the Pride, and every now and then it'd be really fun because everyone knew the songs.
Yeah. Definitely brings like a lot of energy to the table. So
yeah, it's all just everyone having fun. It's a real communication of like knowing what the audience wants, and then the audience saying, "You guys sound great," and then just that never-ending cycle of let's have fun together.
So do you feel like you always learn something new when you play the bass? Like you feel like you're always learning and growing?
Oh yeah, I'll never fully learn this instrument, and I think most musicians will be inclined to answer the same way. Even when I'm like looking over things that I was playing like maybe 10 years ago, like I'll be like, oh, let's look back at that lick, or maybe check out this Bach A2 that I haven't checked out in a while. And then you'll notice that you can do a different fingering now that you've improved so much from doing other things. Every single time you go back to a new piece or you're looking at something new, you kind of have this thing where you kind of try and scan through all of your previous experiences and you bring that to the table. And with each day you do that, going from thing to thing, you're just going to notice that even if you're switching between just two things that you're practicing, the thing that you pick up from the other just goes immediately to that. And it just helps out so much. It sometimes helps out to be practicing 2 or 3 things at once just because you might learn something from the other thing you're doing that just helps out so much. Whether it's here, I'm going to work on time, but then as I'm working on like maybe this tapping rock prog lick thing, the practice that you put on time is making you more stable. It's making you more comfortable with executing what you wanted to. It's a really fun thing to have that immediate sense of reward.
Nice,
Yeah.
definitely. So, do you have any new projects you're working on?
So at the moment, I've got a couple things under wraps that we're not talking about, but Eugene Bazdikian and I are working on some very cool bass-related content that we'll hopefully have coming out. It's very dependent on coronavirus, but I'm also working on the software stuff. I do actually have a fledged out solo duo record that I'm working on with Andrew Tasheen, which actually is just going to be bass, drums, and vocals. We'll see how that turns out. A lot of that's been fleshed out, and he and I are going to be recording that again once things kind of sign off. So definitely keep an eye on the Facebooks of either of us. Really looking forward to it, and hopefully, I think I'm on one of Garrett Mader's new tracks. Who's a friend of mine. He's been mixing and writing coronavirus albums, and I recorded with him maybe 2 weeks ago. So maybe that'll come out. I don't know.
Nice, nice. So, I got one more question before we head out. So what do you love and hate most about playing the bass?
Oh man, the thing I love most about it is when things are at its best. When you're hitting the right notes, when you feel connected to your instrument, when everyone in the band and you are just on the same plane of playing, and that's just a huge part because when you're playing bass and you're kind of holding it down and everyone's having a good time, you know that you're being supportive enough so that everyone can have fun. Because if you were messing up right now, no one would be having fun. As a rhythm section member, your sense of responsibility kind of goes up a little bit harder. Because if you take a bad solo, the drums and bass don't really sound that bad, unless it's a really bad solo. But if you were like the band sounds great and the bass player is like tripping up, everyone's gonna fall apart.
Yep. Same with the
And
drummers. It's always the drummers and the bass that keeps everybody
yeah,
in line. So if
you,
one's out of whack, you definitely notice it.
yeah, and even if those guys aren't communicating, and I'd say the worst thing about the hardest thing about being a bass player for me is exactly that. When I'm not linking up with the drummer or vice versa, which, it's the same thing. Like when the two of us aren't vibing together, it just makes the entire gig just seem like you're not playing the music. You're just trying to figure out the meta game of learning how to play with someone. And while that can sometimes be fun, and I love that, especially when it's like a brand new person. But if it's like, oh man, I'm playing with someone where it's like we don't get along, I don't know what's gonna happen, we haven't rehearsed, and then it falls apart, no matter how hard you try. Like sometimes I've even been to jam sessions where it's like I'm paired with a drummer, and I'm like, oh, this guy can't play drums. Like every now and then, or like, especially if I'm out of my element, like I'm reading a brand new Latin chart that I've never read before. And it's just like those moments when you're just, oh man, I'm not locking in with the drummer and I know it. Those moments, those are the worst. And those are the things that keep you practicing at night because you do not want those to happen again.
Exactly. I definitely
Yeah.
experienced that. When I used to manage bands, and that was always the things I worked. I'm like, all right, hold on, everyone stop what they're doing. Bass and drums only. I got to make sure you guys are in sync, and then try to get everyone to fall in line because I be like, all right, singer, guitar, step aside. I need to hear them, make sure they're on key. And then if they're on key, then I can determine, okay, then something with the guitar player's off or the singer's off.
Yeah, you kind of come at it from the foundation and then you work on the things that you put on top of it. That's especially how working in a band has always been with me, and writing out charts or like when you're doing specific arrangements. It's always important to have your foundation really strong.
Yeah, as long as everybody's on the same page. So, so before we head out, anybody you want to shout out? Where can they follow you? Where they can find you on social medias? How can they keep track of what you're going to be doing?
Check me out on Facebook. If you do want to check out the last couple of records that I have put out, I do have Bandcamp links for Fish God, 2 words. The band Kind of Kind, which is all one word, Kind of Kind. I've been on their first 2 records where I did help write the second one. I wrote all the bass lines for all of them, and I actually do sing lead on a few tracks. So check them out on Bandcamp, Instagram, Spotify, all the things. And if you want to check out some stuff where I actually post like videos of me playing bass, about pedals, stuff like that, talking about technology, I do actually do that as my Instagram profile, which is Arj Bass. A lot of it is cooking related right now because I've been experimenting how to get the proper pork chop recipe. So bear with me, but the bass videos will be coming back. Yeah, definitely check me out on
Cooking
Instagram if you
with
want.
bass.
It's
Cooking with bass. You gotta play the bass and cook.
cooking bass reviews.
Right there, million
I
dollar
pork
idea
chop.
right there.
That's my mo.
There you go. Anybody want to shout out really quick?
I'm gonna shout out to my parents always for supporting me, all my music stuff. My teachers, I had some really great people. Shout outs to yeah, I think that's it. Oh,
Uh,
all my friends and everybody. And shout out to the entire Pride of America crew. It was a lot of fun playing on that shit. There were some really cool people and met a lot of great musicians and otherwise. It was a lot of fun. So shout outs to where we met on the Pride.
Definitely sounds good, man. It definitely
Yeah.
was a pleasure talking to you again. We definitely gotta
Dude,
link
thank you
up and
so
do a
much for
clap.
having me.
Oh yeah,
I'll never
definitely.
forget on Christmas when you were DJing and everyone's not on the floor. I like came out of nowhere and just walked up to you, was like, "Yo, you want a shot?"
Yeah. Like,
Like when you reached out to me, I was like, "Hi, I bought him a shot, and it really panned out. We're keeping in touch. This is nice."
yeah, you were like only like the really person who like said Merry Christmas to me like during that whole time. I was
Yeah,
just
because
like,
everyone was at the Christmas party. I was like, "That's not like literally." I
yeah, I was
saw
by
you
myself.
were
I was just
working.
like, oh man. I was like,
I literally
nobody
came
here.
up for midnight, and I was just like, "Get a drink, dude. This is unfair. Get to the party as soon as you can."
Definitely appreciate it, man. Always showing the love.
Oh, of
So,
course, man. If there's one thing I can say about a musician, I'm not going to be the best bass player in the world before I'm done. But if I could give a last word to all, especially young musicians that want anything, just work hard and bring a really good attitude. One thing that I do try and do, especially as a musician, is to bring a lot of energy on stage. So even if it's goofy and people are laughing, if you can keep people smiling and entertained and having fun, it can make up for some bad notes.
exactly.
So definitely have fun while you're playing and try and be a good person while doing it and working with them. Anyway,
So,
it was just an absolute pleasure, man. It's good to work with someone again and have fun.
sounds good. Hopefully, you'll come back to the show one day in the future, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Give me a call. I currently unemployed in my parents' basement, so
So
you
that's
know,
a
see you
musician's
tomorrow.
life. Exactly. All right, man. Well, enjoy the rest of your night and definitely link up soon.
Absolutely, dude. Peace out, and great to hear from you.
All right,
Rock
sounds
on.
good. See you later, man. Peace.
Peace.
So yeah, that was Arjun right there. Very talented bassist, definitely full of life. Big shout out to Brandon in the chat. Sorry, man, I just noticed the comments and questions you're asking him now. Got lost with the whole music and everything, but I know I know he went over the Jimmy Buffett stuff earlier, so I'll have a link up on my YouTube channel so you can watch this and you can see him actually talk about the whole Jimmy Buffett. I think he mentioned Mathcore as well too, so you'll probably be able to hear that earlier. But definitely make sure to follow me on all social media platforms at Joe Phame. That's Twitch, YouTube, Facebook. Every Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays from 8 to 9 p.m. I always have a special guest. If you got a talent and you want to showcase your talent, you want to be seen, you want to be heard, you want to let the world know what you got to offer, I want you on my show. So definitely hit me up and we'll definitely get you on here and see what you got. So once again, thank you guys all for tuning in. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your night. Make sure you have a great weekend. And next week, we got some new upcoming artists as well and some other special features I'm going to have. I'm working on the schedule right now, so stay put for that. So once again, hope you guys have a good one. Good night, everybody. Peace.